ahead and get started here. This is the medtech family office panel, so I hope that's what you're all here for. My name is Michael Quigley, and I'm the VP of Market Research at Life Science Nation. It's actually the company behind the Resi conference. And I spend my time managing a team of analysts who is constantly interviewing investors in the life science space to identify their various areas of interest in terms of sectors, subsector, indication, phase of development, geographies, etc. And one of the big groups we've been trying to focus a lot of our efforts on and kind of identifying and then understanding their interest is in the family office space. And a lot of the result of that work is a lot of the family offices we have at the conference today and joining me on the panel. So the way I'd like to kind of just run the session is go quickly through introductions, have everyone just kind of describe their background, their fund, kind of their investment thesis, and the types of companies they're looking for. I have a number of different questions we'd be going through, and then I would like to open it up for about 10 or 15 minutes towards the end for audience Q&A. So with that, I'd like to toss it over to Sean.
Morning, everyone. Sean Kearney. I'm a digital health investor, and 2013 helped to create the venture platform for the Bro Group, a family office out of Denver, Colorado. We've invested in about 15 companies, all in telemedicine, consumer hardware software, or precision medicine, primarily genomics, but another diagnostic firm. We invest nationwide. We're stage agnostic, though have an emphasis earlier in seed or Series A. Otherwise, the family office that is the primary capital source for Three Leaf is the Bro Group, as I had mentioned, a multi-billion-dollar firm in railroads, real estate, and oil and gas. And so I operate in my own little universe here in what's considered healthcare to that firm, but I'm glad to be here.
Hi everyone, my name is Kyle Williams. I'm with Bootstrap Incubation and Bootstrap Ventures here in San Diego. I represent the family office of my relatives, Parker and Jean Hinshaw, who are longtime healthcare IT executives and entrepreneurs. So we'd like to invest in sort of Series C, Series A, similar stages, with the real affinity towards digital health, connected devices, IoT, data analysis, precision medicine, and those sorts of topics. So yeah, that's us. Thanks.
Hi, my name is John Kinsella, as you can see by the placard up here. The McNair Group is a family office located in Houston, Texas. Not surprisingly, it's energy money that it's directed itself partway into the health life science space. It is focused on diseases that have affected the family. So type 1 and type 2 diabetes, pancreatic cancer, breast cancer, and then the whole bucket of the neurology space. So one of the recent investments was a robotic surgery for the brain surgery. We invest all the way through Series CD. So my experience, the reason I'm involved with the company is they invested heavily initially by themselves, and then along with institutional investors in my companies, there is pharmaceuticals, and at levels of 5 million in repeated tranches. So, and then they can go down to $500,000. They're an evergreen fund. McNair is an evergreen fund, so they tend to take a longer view than institutional investors that are responsible to limited partners. I say they invest in those specific spaces, but there's plasticity or elasticity for, say, for instance, diabetes. Look at non-opioid drugs for peripheral neuropathy. That's very interesting. I think that's about it.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Julia Belaya, and I'm the Director of Corporate Partnerships at Plug and Play Tech Center. We're actually the largest global technology accelerator backed by a family office. So the way that we are today really stemmed out of our founder and CEO's real estate portfolio. So he had a lot of plays in Silicon Valley, and one building in particular happened to house in the early days of Google, PayPal, and Logitech. So he was actually very opportunistic and got an early investment into PayPal because he didn't trust Peter Thiel to pay rent at this building. So he negotiated 2 years advanced rent in the form of equity in PayPal, which was a huge return, obviously. And he kind of ran with this model of being a landlord and getting to know the technology, getting to know the team, and investing. So he purchases their headquarters, just huge, it's 180,000 square feet in Sunnyvale, California, and just fills it with startups. We have about 350 to 400 startups there at any one time. And we've built an entire ecosystem around the companies there. One of our big distinguishers is our corporate partnership network. That's actually how we find our investments and do our due diligence. So essentially we let the industry dictate what kind of technologies they're willing to validate and commercialize. And we do this across 9 different platforms, everything from brand and retail to new materials and packaging. We have a food vertical, supply chain and logistics. I focus specifically on healthcare. Within that, we're partnered with Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Boehringer Ingelheim, Ascension, and they give us their technology interests. And our focus is in digital health. Our only criteria for investment is that the company be capital efficient. So they could do something with $50,000, $100,000. So traditionally, that's been digital health plays. But with the cost of sensors going down so dramatically, we have seen a lot more off-the-shelf hardware and devices coming through as well. And so the corporations will give us their interest. We'll source companies to facilitate introductions. And then we kind of see what are the engagements that emerge. There's always 1 or 2 companies that get the pilots, get the proof of concepts, get the licensing deals, and that signifies a good investment for us. So we invest anywhere from 50 to $500,000, with about 150 being our sweet spot for ticket size. And last year we made about 164 investments, on track to beat that this year, with at least 30 of those being specific to healthcare.
Awesome. Just to quickly poll the audience here, how many fundraising entrepreneurs do we have out there? Okay, and that's all medical devices, diagnostics, healthcare IT? Awesome. So one of the things I see in my line of work with kind of helping people fundraise through the use of our database and our broker-dealer is I oftentimes have entrepreneurs come into my office and say, I don't want to raise money from anyone except family offices. And as the family offices in the room, I'd like to know what you would say to an entrepreneur if that was their fundraising strategy.
I'd say thank you for your vote of confidence, I suppose. But it's probably, one of the bigger misconceptions is that the most family offices aren't as involved and aren't as tough with driving towards milestones and holding entrepreneurs accountable. So I think that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions that might lead investors to make a statement like that.
Yeah, I would say that sounds bizarre. I mean, I think if you're an entrepreneur, you should be looking at all sources. I think what we do, and there's a lot of different things represented here, but for areas like medtech or therapeutics or diagnostics or really science-based things, for example, we don't have that background. We're going to always partner with a VC firm that has that background. So we're looking for partnering, not doing it ourselves, I guess I would say.
Awesome. Yep.
Well, I'd agree with everything these guys said. And I think it's just trying to private equity from family offices. It's private and it's pretty low visibility. So trying to find these family offices can be a big challenge, and that's what I like about the Resi conference. They're one of the first conferences I've seen that will have started to bring out the family office folks into visibility. But there's lots of them out there, but finding them can be, and you need eventually, if you're into oncology and your diabetes, cardiovascular, you're going to need guys with deep pockets, and that means real private equity like crossover funds or venture to partner up with you and give you the validation, because money brings validation. So that's all I say about that.
Yeah, at least with our model, that wouldn't work. We don't lead rounds. We're pretty passive. We have fairly small ticket sizes. So beyond that Series A, we're more apt to introduce a company to, say, Sequoia, and if they do due diligence and lead a Series A, they'll let us invest like $150 in good faith. And that's why we built this entire ecosystem, is to introduce companies to VCs for the biggest ticket sizes, or to institutional investors through the corporate venture arms we work with. We wouldn't really, fund an entire round or anything like that, or even lead one.
Awesome. Okay, and so that said, there are obviously kind of some differences in between how more traditional venture capital investors and family offices might operate. Could you highlight what some of those differences might be in your case, if there are any?
Sure. I think I think traditionally a lot of venture investors will have criteria that they have to meet when investing. If it's them leading the round, they have to get to a certain percentage of ownership, or they have to be so much of the preferred capital going into the financing. I think that's one clear, one transparent aspect to family offices. Those criteria don't necessarily need to hold, and oftentimes just by structure of the agreement by which the family office invests versus that of a partnership, there are guidelines that VCs have to meet, that they commit to their investors with how they're going to go out and deploy the capital. That typically is not so much the case for family offices. They can be a bit more flexible in that regard. So I think that I'll leave it to that and let Kyle respond next.
Sure. Yeah, I think the key thing, because we do both. We have a sort of family money, and the criteria are very different between the family and our LP-driven fund. And a lot of it has to do with this evergreen concept, right? The family fund is very opportunistic. It's more patient because we're not answering to other people, where we have a clear charter of returning funds, returning value over a 7 to 9 year time frame. So those two different sort of buckets really drive the decision making in different ways.
I'd just like to add that the McNair Group typically is a follower. We don't lead. Small deals we'll lead because the philanthropic side of the family office has invested heavily in Baylor University, so we have deep domain knowledge, not only in Baylor but UT and other, and we have access to KOLs across the country. But we're really strong on the finance side. We've got deep financial backing in the organization, but we're light when it comes to the driving the technical diligence. And so it's like Jonathan Jonas said at the Resi conference at JP Morgan. It's me and my partner, which is my dad. We're kind of like that, but.
Yeah, I just want to echo the flexibility piece. Unlike a lot of the other accelerators that are backed by either an LP or a grant, we're a lot more flexible with the kind of companies that we can let into our programs and with our investments, as well as the opportunistic piece. So our CEO is a big believer in kind of the execution of the idea. Google was the 13th search engine. Facebook is obviously not the first social networking site. So it's really the team and the people that could execute. So we have some entrepreneurs that, he's seen them perform over the years time and time again across the industry, across different ideas. So they could walk into his office and it'll cut him a check for 150 without, doing any due diligence, really, just trusting the entrepreneur. So I know that's a lot more flexible than how a VC would work.
I'll add one more thing as it relates to networks and connections, connectivity. I think that oftentimes a family office can have the potential to have a much more diverse and broad exposure to different connections. For example, in the Bro Group, we have 3 large arms in railroads, real estate, oil, and gas, and we often interplay the relationships we've built between those and our 3 Leaf Ventures portfolio. At first, it would seem kind of absurd that there's some overlap there, but for example, one of our tenants in the Maryland, D.C. area is one of the largest fertility clinics in the U.S. And so we have companies that we've brought in their doors to work with them. Another connection would be one of our ports down in Texas. Actually, we've met with Elon Musk to help them think about what they're doing with their logistics issues in the battery space. And so I think VCs, where they might have a high potential, very domain-specific expertise and connections. A larger family office might have either geographically diverse or sector or industry diverse, politically diverse. So just as you would diligencing any two investors, I think you'll start to uncover where their networks might add value or not to what you're trying to do.
Yeah, kind of. So a couple points there, John. You touched a little bit about your family office's kind of philanthropic interests in the space, and just kind of to the group. I guess to what extent are you investing philanthropically as for kind of a social impact as opposed to financial, and then kind of why healthcare to that same regard?
Well, it's the diseases, the various diseases I described that have impacted the family. And you get a big enough family, you'll eventually see some of those more common diseases. So Baylor College of Medicine, Texas Children's Hospital down in Houston, they've put money into the diabetes space and other, they fund chairs, scholar chairs, in various of some of the more common diseases, but like the biome's becoming, and they'll literally put enough money in for Baylor College of Medicine to bring in a key opinion leader and a researcher, and they'll just plunk down the money and they'll fund them year after year. They have built significant buildings on Baylor campus, to the extent there's actually a McNair Way on the campus. That's what I'm most familiar with. But the other part is Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation has seen a lot of money from the McNair Foundation, and any of the patient advocacy groups that they will go straight at those.
But a little bit more in regards to the kind of like early stage technologies. When they're financing these rounds, are they thinking about it with an impact, kind of triple bottom line perspective, or are they more focused purely on financial returns in those cases?
It's more impact focused.
Okay.
It's definitely more impact focused.
Okay. And Sean, would you say, where are you on that spectrum?
Yeah, certainly impact focused.
Okay. Kyle?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we will definitely make early stage bets on early stage things that impact family members. You know, that there's a personal reason. You know, be it Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. These are things that family members have suffered from, and we're excited to hear about cures. So yeah, we'll definitely make investments that are outside of our, out of our normal sphere.
Yeah.
Because of a personal reason, definitely.
Okay, awesome. And you mentioned some of the things that your family office can add that maybe a VC couldn't in terms of your network. Are there any other kind of benefits outside of capital that you guys offer the companies you work with?
So for us, like I already mentioned, our big differentiator and why a lot of the VCs even like partnering with us and kind of giving us access to their portfolio companies is the corporate network that we have. We have over 170 corporate partners across 9 different industries, and the business development opportunities that produces for the startups in our ecosystem are invaluable. So we actually, even though we're an early stage investor, through our programs, we'll see growth stage companies come through. Because even if you're at a $10 million, $20 million valuation, partnership with a J&J, with a Pfizer is still, nothing to scoff at. So those introductions. And besides that, especially it's specific to healthcare, we'll do mentorship where we'll have an event called Doctorpreneurs, where we'll have clinicians come in and have the startups in healthcare pitch to them and get kind of a front line. Would you use this technology? Is this too much data entry? So we've seen a lot of technologies die at the front lines. Each of our partners will bring in various business units and kind of get buy-in there as well. So that's the big value add.
Awesome. And in terms of how you all do and kind of deal with deal sourcing, obviously I imagine most of the entrepreneurs in here are interested in how to kind of find family offices. Could you kind of describe what your deal sourcing efforts look like, what kind of channels you use, and any advice you give to an entrepreneur who's trying to find new family offices?
Yeah, so I think events like this are certainly one route. I advise one of the venture funds at the University of Michigan, and so I work closely with professors there, and as well as the tech transfer programs. And so if you have a scientific advisor or a technical founder that is affiliated with the university, oftentimes things will trickle down to our desk from those channels. Otherwise, I think if I were probably you trying to figure it out, I would, whatever community or geography you're interested in, start to look at some of the largest, private offices there. Not just, talking about largest private manufacturing organizations, and try to work your way back to the ownership level detail that will point you to who might be active in the community. I think that's probably one of the harder routes to go, but one that you won't be butting heads as much with the investor or the entrepreneur sitting next to you.
That's true. Yeah, I mean that's the $1,000,000 question, right?
Yeah.
And it's really all about networking. It's really about networking within the universities, within accelerator programs. I mean, Plug and Play is a great example. There's several others in really any sort of tech center community. Those are places that we put a lot of value on what they're doing because they do have very large networks. The good ones do, and I just want to emphasize the corporate partnership part as well. That is where that validation, that customer validation, is invaluable. So whatever you can do to show that you're partnering with a potential acquirer, even if it's not the one that you necessarily want to be acquired by, but you can show a pathway to acquisition and show that you can create value for the big players. That's most of the outcomes that people have, right? It's not necessarily IPO. It's you're going to be acquired. So just thinking about acquisition and working your way back from there, I think is one good strategy. Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to hear more on you on that too.
Most of our sourcing, so honestly, some of the best companies that we have an internal ventures team that will go out and proactively source these companies. And also the complex that we have in Silicon Valley, we'll put on over 300 events per year. Some sponsored by J&J, Pfizer, so that attracts a lot of companies coming in as well. Like I already said, we don't directly compete with VCs, so we have access to their portfolio companies. They'll facilitate a lot of introductions. We have a number of international offices, so we kind of get deal flow from the Asian, European, and South American markets, in addition to domestically. And then, our ventures team will proactively source, and just having that global brand. We started our healthcare focus in October 2015, but Plug and Play has been around as an accelerator since 2006, which is a lot older than now. It's a dime a dozen kind of the co-working and accelerator spaces. Back when we launched it in 2006, it was a pretty novel idea. So we've kind of been known in that space for a while, so we just have deal flow coming in that way as well.
Okay. And then go ahead.
I think our deal flow has been sort of analogous to somebody sitting on the side of a good trout stream. It's just been flow by. People come, have either through VCs have said, you need to go talk to them, because a lot of VCs would like McNair Group to be a limited partner, but the idea is, no, we're going to do our own direct investing. We may do one-off limited partners, and it comes from universities, but the really active deal flow and networking with other family offices to date, till I came along, just didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's the thing about private equity. It gives private a whole new meaning, because these family offices, they've spent a lot of their lives being quiet about their money, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's not like, hey, we got a family office over here, we're investing in stuff. It's like the kids that are involved. It's everybody's. We're the McNairs. We own the Houston Texans. We keep quiet about our money.
Yeah. And I do think, kind of based on my experience in the industry, there is somewhat of a shift where there's getting to be kind of more family offices that are developing like an online presence or what have you. They're announcing that they're co-leading deals or co-investing in deals. But that, I would say that that's a very small subsect of the broader family office market. And it's kind of where I've spent the majority of my time. And in my experience networking with family offices, first of all, you want to treat every conversation as if it could lead you into a family office, because that's really how one of the keys with networking is that you never know who you're talking to might know and who they might be able to introduce you to. But in addition to that, I stay very up to date on financing rounds through Google News releases, and just reading through every lead and co-investor. You can just kind of siphon them by your disease area, or medical device type, to get a little bit more focused there. And then another great source for us has been working with like trusted law firms. We have a couple of different sponsors that have worked with us, and they've introduced us to a couple family offices on occasion, since family offices are always, I mean, they all have various lawyers for various different reasons, and they can be a trusted source. If you can get an introduction through their lawyer, they tend to take it pretty seriously. So then, kind of post-sourcing, can you walk me through what a deal process would look like when it does close? Kind of what are the steps and the timeline associated with that?
Sure, I can start off. So typically, and I think what's unique is for us is, or maybe this carries across family offices, but a lot of times the partner level or myself as an MD are involved from the very beginnings of deal sourcing, and so the first conversations usually will be had in a phone call or a meetup like this, and then say 2 to 3 weeks will be, if things continue to progress, will be more conversations either over the phone or in person, and access to either an established data room or checking boxes off of our list, diving deeper into what's proprietary about what you're doing, the IP, the team and members you have involved, and going back to our own resources in the community to understand market, to understand competition, etc. So typically that's what takes place for the first 4 weeks, and then if things go beyond that, we start to have discussions internally with our investment committee back in Denver. And I'd say on average that takes another 2 to 4 weeks, and so 8 weeks out, if things go accordingly, then we could be talking about either a term sheet or looking to follow on to whomever else is set to lead.
Yeah, I'd say we have a pretty typical process similar to this. Just kind of 2 points, I guess. First is we're very interested in your team and meeting your team, and understanding that startups is a team game. So what we really want to know, from the CEO is what you are and what you aren't, and if you understand that, if you understand what you're good at, what you're not good at, and if with stuff you're not good at, do you have a team around you? That's where we've had, I guess, our major failures is investing in a really talented CEO that couldn't get out of his own or her own way, and couldn't build a team. So for us, it's really understanding the group of people that we're investing in. I don't know if you've seen this, but there's a lot of ideas. You mentioned this, Facebook and Google. Having the best idea is not necessarily going to get you across the finish line. It's really about having a good team. So we focus a lot of our time and efforts on understanding the people that you've surrounded yourself with. And the second thing is we definitely get involved with other investors. So we like to syndicate, like to have other investors at the table. And so that takes some time. So the more that you can help us with that, and we'll help you with that as well. But being open to that is also.
And when you're syndicating those deals, are you working with other family offices, VCs, corporates, everything?
Yeah, all the above. Okay. Exactly. And then we'll bring our own subject matter experts to the table, and so how you relate with those people is also very, very key.
Can't add a lot to that, other than reiterating that we look at the team a lot, and we look at the CEO and his history. Has he been in the space before? Has he been able to execute? And having that conversation with the CEO at a time that the company needs different skill set, like commercialization skill set, for instance. You need to hear those words that I'm flexible, and I'm willing to step down or step aside and stay involved, or be one of the largest shareholders. But boy, a lot of companies have gone sideways on CEOs that like came out of academia or didn't have the right skill set to execute through to a trade sale, and certainly there's not a lot of them have done IPOs, right? So that's important, and if they've worked with the other people on the team before, and what's that chemistry like? And when you meet with the C-suite guys, you know, one of the best skills we bring to it is having a real nose for how these guys are getting along. Watch what happens at the table when, if there's, you know, subliminal arguments that are going on, or somebody's got a really different opinion, that kind of thing. So this is a people business at the end of the day, and it's like it's a horse race, and you're betting on the jockeys, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we have very similar. It's kind of like the 5 T's. We look at team, we like a technical co-founder, and then one that's more focused on business, technology, attraction, timing, terrain, and then what a lot of our due diligence is through these introductions that we make to the corporations, and how is your pitch? Are you getting engagement? Are you getting traction with them? We run these 2-hour what we call deal flow sessions. So for each one of our partners, up to 6 times per year, they'll give us a list of interests, and we'll source 4 companies for them to meet for half-hour pitches. And a lot of the interests are pretty similar across the corporation. So we'll have some companies that get to meet, you know, 6, 7 corporations in a 3-month period, and then we kind of see, are they getting engagements out of these? Are they getting pilots, proof of concepts? How is their pitch? Are they able to pivot if necessary? We're working with a lot of early stage companies, so we kind of see their flexibility. And then I don't know if this is just the Silicon Valley thing, but a lot of our the holdup comes with valuations. So sometimes the valuation, it's like, where are you getting this from? That you're valued at this amount, you have no revenue or customers. And then the negotiation will go kind of stall there when, you know, you're saying you have a $25 million business with nothing to back that. And we see, and I don't know if that's like the Silicon Valley juice happening. We see that a lot more with the Silicon Valley entrepreneurs where they're not as humble. But yeah, that's kind of when it stagnates as far as the process, because we can move fairly quickly in investments if we're confident just in writing a check. So I've seen it move from like meeting someone to a week later we're investing to getting held up for like 6 months in negotiation.
Yeah, and anyone else like to comment on how they kind of look at valuations or things they're seeing in the space?
I mean, we look at customers, revenue, especially on the kind of later stage, or not even later, but through like Series A. You know, some kind of traction. Where are you getting the valuation numbers from?
Okay.
Yeah, we've been, I think I mentioned we had about 15 portfolio companies and over 30 plus financings, and so they're spread pretty evenly geographically. About a third of them on the West Coast, a third of them in between the coasts, and then the balance more Northeast. And so fortunately we have, I mean, we've done 4 telemedicine companies, and so at a Series A financing we have a table, and we can just sit there and look at where they're at and compare kind of apples to apples. The big adjustments made typically when you're going from Silicon Valley to Ann Arbor, Michigan. So I think, you know, numbers are very different in the Midwest than in other places where capital is a bit more scarce, and fortunately for us, we're able to kind of adjust and look at real numbers from companies we've been involved with that help out in those conversations with entrepreneurs.
Awesome. All right, with that, I'd like to open it up to the audience for question and answers. Does anyone have any questions?
Hi, Christian regarding MedForce. Maybe for Kyle and Sean, you see your title as managing directors, and you mentioned an investment committee. So my 2 questions for you guys. One is, how much is your decision versus the family? And second, do you have a vested interest, some sort of a carry or skin in the game when you make a decision?
Yeah, I'll go first. So it's definitely a committee decision. So we have a committee of 3. So I'm a third of that. So it takes, but I'm on the front line, I guess you might say. I'm on the day to day. So you know, I'm probably the most, at the end of it, the most knowledgeable about, you know, what's actually happening with this company. But yeah, I'm a voice of three, and then yeah, definitely carried interest in, you know, where I'm compensated on the long term for sure.
Yeah, so we have a committee of 5. My partner Kiki Bro's here as well. Say hi to her if you see her, but she's 1/5 of that, just as I am 1/5 of that. I will say if our 2/5 aren't there, then you won't be in front of the rest of the investment committee. So, so we're involved pretty heavily all the way through the process. We also have skin in the game, so every investment we make, we write a check and have ownership in the outcome.
For the McNair, depends on what time of the year it is, I guess. There's an investment committee of the CFO, Kerry McNair himself, Charles, the medical director, and I'm sort of the funnel into the system, so where it gets going is, so John, what do you think? So we spend our time reasonably here. So they eventually turn around to me and ask me what I think about it, but at the end of the day, for the family office, it's the 3 of them that go, okay, let's write a check. Let's finish up the due diligence, and let's have the next meeting. Let's get a term sheet on the table, and it's like you were saying, it can, for people that are recognized, they come in, they've already invested in the CEO in another company that he's done well on. It can be pretty short-stroked to the check writing. But often when it's led by somebody else, it's more under control of the lead investor. That's and you look to them, and then it's like, okay, let's go along. Let's join the syndicate. Write the check. Give us the paperwork. Send us the paperwork from the law firm, and we will.
Yep.
A question for Julia. What percentage of the companies you invest in take space in your incubator?
So we run these 3-month accelerator programs in conjunction with our partners. We run them twice per year. And for those companies that get accepted into the program, there are about 20 to 25 companies. Every 3 months, we give them free space. And through the program, we'll invest in about half the companies that go through. And a lot of them will take space afterwards. After the 3 months are through as tenants. And then overall, the building, we have about, like I said, 350 to 400 companies there. In a year, we'll invest in about 25% of the companies throughout the building. So we still do use the building as a source of deal flow, just because we get to know those companies so well.
Do you invest in companies that never take space?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
What percentage?
We'll invest probably another, at least 50% of the companies never take space with us. Even the companies that go through our accelerator programs, we don't require that they relocate to the Bay Area, so we might invest with them even though they're located on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Since I know you guys, Julia, don't do leads, I'm not totally clear on the other 3. So if you could talk about whether you ever lead, and also would you ever go in terms haven't been set on convertible notes, and lastly, how many companies average per year do you invest in?
I could start with that. No, we don't lead. We don't take board seats. Sometimes we'll take advisory seats, and we do invest in convertible notes. We actually, Guardant Health, which is our newest unicorn, we invested back in 2012 on a convertible note. And then we'll invest, like I said, last year we invested in about 164 companies. We're going to be over 180 this year, but not all of them specific to healthcare. At least 30, 35 will be healthcare, and that's growing as our healthcare practice and program grows as well.
Yeah, so we will lead on things that we sort of have our own domain knowledge around. So digital health, healthcare IT, data analytics, those types of areas we will lead. For things that are more diagnostic, therapeutic in nature, where we don't have the deep science background to really do the due diligence, we will definitely partner. We definitely do convertible notes. Third question was?
How many investments do
Oh,
you
yeah.
do per year?
Probably about 8 to 10.
Yeah, we lead. We syndicate also. We'll do 3 to 5 new investments every year, but you know, go through a number of follow-on financings as well. And I'm trying to think. Oh, notes. Yes, we've done notes.
Okay.
If the terms are set, that's yeah, we've jumped in on.
So that's pretty much our investment profile for the year.
Yeah.
And do convertible notes. We'll lead on local deals that we're familiar with. An academic that's got a great idea, great IP, IT, or great IP, and is well known. We'll lead that convertible notes. I think that's the freedom you have when you're a family office. So.
Yeah, in the back.
Yes, a question regarding the appetite for a PMA product versus a 510K, and at what stage does a family office typically like to get in? Preclinical, or do they like to wait and see you're in clinical trials or even after?
Most of the stuff we've done have all been 510K. We haven't done anything PMA, and so you know, for us, for a 510K, we're okay getting in before the studies begin, as long as we have an understanding of the strategy around pulling that together and doing your pre-submission with the FDA. So we've done before and after.
Yeah, exactly the same answer. Yeah.
So,
Us too.
Any other
Can I
questions?
just follow on to that? So
Sure.
just your opinions, I know you guys aren't doing it, but to the extent family offices have an appetite for PMA medical device opportunities, or are you guys representative of kind of the ecosystem out there? Obviously it's a longer time, but you talk about families who have suffered from these disease states, PMA may be required for some of that.
Yeah, I can jump in a little bit here, just because I've worked with a bunch of different family offices, and the most important thing is I wouldn't really try to categorize them at all. I think that every family office is extremely unique and different, and you should kind of treat it that way instead of saying, do family offices invest preclinical? Do they wait for clinical data? It's what does this family office do? And in addition to that, I think when you have the kind of the more high science type investments that are high regulatory information that a PMA requires, you're going to want to have either a family office that maybe made their money in the medical device industry, or they have that, like you're saying, that connection with the disease. Because otherwise, they're going to have to hire people with VC backgrounds to do that level of diligence. And unless they built a structure to do that, they're not really prepared to review it.
Yeah, I think he's right on. The diligence and the work behind understanding it is a lot more. So that's why we've you know, as a product of family offices, typically they're coming from a different industry, and so without having the deep expertise there and having to pay for it, or it's too much for us to get our lips around.
Any other questions? We got. I can go. I got one more we can get through here. So one kind of reason that I think entrepreneurs look to family offices as opposed to VCs is the theme that you guys have a little bit more flexibility in terms of exit timeline. So if you wouldn't mind kind of talk me through how you look at an exit timeline, if you have kind of a range that you look for, or how long term can you look when you're getting first involved with a company?
Yeah, so we'll, as a family office, we'll still have expectations similar to that of a return profile of a venture capital firm, but we're not as hard pressed to push to a suboptimal outcome. So when we underwrite our investments, we expect there's a potential for, you know, a lot of times between 3 to 5 years on the early side, but then understand that things can go a bit longer. And so I think the biggest difference you find is that the family offices, especially that are more established around an evergreen type structure, don't have the 3 to 4 year turnaround where they need to show returns and go out and fundraise the next fund built off the successes or the markups of their, or the exits of their last round of investments. So I think that's probably one of the biggest indicators of why family offices have a different timeline.
Oh, go ahead.
My question is for John. I'm Suzanne Grant from Ibonics. Thank you very much for your time. I'm interested, you mentioned something obvious, I guess, or that family offices tend to be more private, not talking about their money, but how interconnected would you say the family offices actually are? From a networking perspective, do the different families do they talk about, or if you went to one family office, for example, and it's not the right family office, they tend to be well connected to the others? I'm just trying to figure out, into this world of family offices, how we sort of navigate it.
So good question, and personally speaking for the years, heretofore there's not a lot of connection with other family offices. There's not a lot of connection with the other family offices. They invested multiple times in my company, Xeris Pharmaceuticals, and that's how I got to know them. And after I left as the founding CEO, we brought in a commercial CEO. I spent a lot of time down in Houston, and there's personal relationships that go on with these guys. And you start talking about, there's actually they're going through a sort of reinventing of the family office. How do we want to be branded? How do we want to go? We haven't got enough back office to really go at some of the deals we'd like to go at with bigger players. And my advice has been, we need to be talking to other family offices. If you saw that article in Wall Street Journal here about 2 months ago, it's private equity, family offices, the new private equity in the ecosystem. So it talked about the Pritzker family out of Chicago, but personally for our family office, there's not a lot of networking that goes on. But these guys sitting here, I think you're probably doing a lot more of that than we are. We do more networking with VCs because they come to syndicate with us because they know they lead it, come in and educate us about the opportunity. And we've got a pretty strong financial back end in the office. They can run the numbers and do the numbers, but that's probably who we network more with than other family offices, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd say similar experience. I think it is kind of a new category of private equity that these types of families are going to do this on their own because the public market returns aren't there, and you sort of have the wherewithal and the resources to make private investments, and things are staying private longer, so you can, depending on the deal size that you need for the size of fund that you're running, there's just more options now available. So yeah, it's early. I mean, we just started doing this 4 years ago, so our experience is very young, but that networking is, I think, starting to happen, and it's happening more so. I think it's going to be a big thing to watch.
Yeah, I think part of it too is a little bit of a, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's a little bit of a snowball effect where success breeds success, and as family offices start making money in direct deals, it's going to just kind of continue to feed in itself. They get more comfortable doing so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, any last questions? I think we're just about out of time. All right, well, thank you guys so much for joining us, and good luck to everyone fundraising out there. Thank you.